As you get deeper into your factory, you'll inevitably need to ship resources to you from further off areas of the map, and at that point, belts are too expensive and not cost effective over such long distances. That's where trains come in, allowing you to transport massive amounts of resources across the map faster than any belt and completely automatically, as long as you set it up correctly. Setting up your first train is honestly incredibly easy. All you need is a loading and unloading area to get the production on or off your train. For most people, this ends up being iron ore. So you build your stations at either end and connect them up with rails. Of course, when building new stations far from home, you need to make sure that you keep them defended with walls and turrets, so make sure all sides are covered with both. You can build gates on straight pieces of track to allow trains in without having a gap in your wall. And if you're wondering how you can get ammo to your defences, allocate one of your cargo wagons to haul ammo back and forth. Yes, it's a tiny bit of a waste, but without running a belt the entire way there and back, there's nothing better until you get defences that don't need ammo. I'd also make sure you have a limiter on the wagon hauling ammo so it doesn't have too much in stock at once, since it really isn't necessary. Building rails can seem real complicated, but I promise it's actually super simple. Just get the rails in your hand, place one down before clicking this green arrow. You'll then be able to just move your mouse where you want the rail to go and it'll automatically place rails to get you there. Make sure your trains can all loop and turn around in any stations you make, and you're off to the races. And fair warning, build way more rails than you think you need because they get used fast. Now, you'll want to build a buffer into both sides of your system to make sure you're loading up as fast as possible, can keep all of your drills running constantly, and can empty your trains as fast as you can to get them back on the road, or rail, I suppose. Use the best inserters you can at both ends to keep trains moving as much as you possibly can. You can also transport fluids using trains, and it's more or less the same process, but instead of inserters, you use pumps placed next to the fluid wagon part of the tracks and route in your oil or whatever other fluid you want moved. You can only have 3 pumps per wagon, and again, be sure to have plenty of buffer to make the most of every trip and transport goods as quickly as possible. On the other end, it's the same deal, just place the pumps in the other direction, and again, lots of buffer. I would say 3 carriages is plenty for most use cases, being able to transport massive amounts of goods without being too long and difficult to work with. Besides, one of these will be for your ammo, so you still have plenty of space for goods alongside this. Plus, longer trains have slower acceleration and deceleration, so will take longer trips, which could end up being less efficient than less cargo but faster trips. Make sure you place your stations along a large straight piece of track with enough room for your 4 carriage long train line and a little room at the end just to be safe with signals. Also, name your stations as soon as you place them to avoid confusion. So for my first iron drilling area, let's call it iron drill or iron ore 1, and for the drop off let's call it iron smelt 1. We simply run a rail between these two and loop the stations back to the main rail, bada bing bada boom, we're basically done. Place your trains on the tracks and connect the cargo wagons, and then we need to sort out the train's automation. First of all, you do need to fuel them, and they take any fuel that burns, so coal, wood, solid fuel, whichever you prefer. Be aware that not all fuels are created equal, with wood lasting the least amount of time and solid fuel lasting the most. As well as this, solid fuel increases vehicle acceleration and top speed, so eventually getting everything running on this is the way to go, if you can afford it. Later on, you can even use rocket fuel and nuclear fuel, and it really does make a difference to their speed and consumption rates, so use the best that you can afford for maximum efficiency. Route a belt of your chosen fuel to where the engine will stop at your home base, and place the fastest insert you can to ensure it's filled up every time as fast as possible. Last thing you want is it running out of fuel halfway home and having to take a long walk to fill it back up. Also have a buffer chest for this insert to pull from with at least 3 stacks of fuel in, since that's the same capacity as the trains, meaning in theory they can go from empty to full in a single stop. But this will likely never happen after the first few fill-ups. Finally, your last step is to set up automation. While it can look spooky, it's actually really easy. You need to add every station you want the train to stop at, which is dead easy to start off with, since you'll only have 2, so smelt and ore. It doesn't really matter which order, since it's going to loop anyway, but I like to have home at the top because that's where you start. Now, you need to tell the train how it knows when to leave each station. You have a range of options, but I like to set them up as follows. From home, I like to set it onto 5 seconds of inactivity. Since the entire point of this setup is to bring back all the product that you possibly can, you might as well wait until everything on board has been emptied out before heading back out, simply to save yourself plenty of fuel from wasted trips. The reason I'm going for inactivity rather than empty cargo is because we are transporting ammo back to these fields, so we're never going to have empty cargo when we are launching, but 5 seconds of inactivity means that each train is fueled up, it's offloaded all the cargo that it can, and it has all the ammo that it needs. On the ore, or whatever the input is of your train line, it's a little bit more complicated. Of course, full cargo makes sense, but if you don't have the most or best drills and inserters, you could be waiting a long time for it to fill up. Plus, when your drills run out and you have 5 spaces left in your cargo hold, the train will sit there till the end of time, and we don't want that. So alongside full cargo, we're going to add a time passed condition. I'd leave it at 2 minutes, since that should be plenty of time for a nice big load of cargo, unless you're literally going across the entire map. This should last you a good long while once you're back to home base. You could also set an inactivity timer, but if you have 1 ore coming in every 5 seconds, you could still get trapped for a very long time, so I'd stick with the regular timer. Finally, make sure that this is an OR command and not an AND command. This will ensure that the train leaves when either condition is met, not both. If it somehow fills up in 45 seconds, the train will leave. Or if it's at 75% after 120 seconds, it will also leave. Once all of this is set up, you'll want to switch the train onto automatic, press play in either of the stations in the menu, and set it going. You can hop aboard with enter to ride along and make sure things are running smoothly if you want to. But that's all, you're done, and I can't believe trains are so easy. Wrong. One train is pretty easy, but once you get multiple and they share the same sections of track, that is when you get into trouble. Now, if you're setting up multiple trains but they go in totally different directions and share no tracks, congratulations, that's as easy as making the new line, just like I just explained. And as long as the two don't get in each other's way, you got nothing to worry about. However, if your second train line goes across or on any of the same tracks as the first one, then you're going to want them to share the rails to cut down on costs, and it gets a whole lot more complicated. Theoretically, you can just add a new station, pop down a train and send it off to the races, and to the game's credit, it will go to that next station as best it can. The problem is that trains can't automatically see other trains, so if the two end up on the same bit of track, heading towards each other, they'll collide and keep pushing forward until they blow each other to bits. That is where signals come in. Signals allow you to essentially divide up your track into segments, and only one train can be on one segment at a time. They're directional, so if you place a signal on the right of a track going vertically, everything downwards will be notified to stop before entering the next section, but coming from the top, they will plow on through. Honestly, the directional stuff can be hard to work out before it's up and running, so placing signals either side, especially in high traffic areas, will be just fine. If trains are travelling in both directions anyway on part of a track, they'll need signals in both directions. Simple as. A simple, if inefficient, solution is to set each offshoot to be its own section. For example, in my game, we have one oil line and one iron line. If these are two separate sections, then only one train can be at home at a time, and the rest will wait in their stations for it to open up. Now, the downside of this is that trains will be sat in their sections rather than getting much closer to base, meaning a lot of downtime is inevitable. In my personal game, this wasn't too bad as they weren't too far from home, but if you had a couple of iron lines instead, then you'd be in a lot more trouble, as one would be waiting for the same station to open up all the way back at its base. And if you set the home station to be its own section but have only one way in, the trains will block each other in, bringing the whole system to a standstill. You have to build the sections of your line to allow everything to flow smoothly with passing points or parallel rails to get everyone past each other. Using the same example as before, to improve that system, we want trains to be closer to home while waiting for others to get out of the way. To do this, we can set up a passing point just outside of your main base. I'd advise your actual stations always be a single section if you can help it to avoid congestion unless you are really strapped for space. Then right outside of the station section, set up some parallel tracks long enough to fit in one of your trains and all of their carriages, and set up signals facing both directions at either end. When holding the signals, you'll be able to see your sections easier to make sure you've done it right. You're going to want to test worst case scenarios first, so bring in all your trains to the queue and enable their automation, see if they can get past each other to get in and out of your base easily. When using this method, you always want at least as many parallel rails as you do trains, likely to be in the same area at the same time. If you have 2 rails and 3 trains, the passing area and main rail may get occupied and get everything clogged up if something else joins the traffic. But if you're at a section of track that only 2 trains ever use, then you only need 2 rails to keep things running smoothly. My advice is to get in the train yourself and manually check the entire route to make sure all the trains sharing the area can pass each other in one go. Oh, also be sure to pause your running trains when you're messing with their area of the rails. The last thing you need is one barreling down the tracks when you've removed signals and either running you down or crashing into others. Though if you're an achievement hunter, getting hit by at least 1 train is a requirement, so make sure to save first to keep your progress. One last thing to mention is when unloading cargo, you want to make sure you have dedicated stations for different resources. While you can technically sort everything out in a single station, it's much easier to simply have your station for say oil and one for iron and keep their sections separate to maximize your efficiency. It may not be quite as space efficient in the long run, but it'll keep your factory running smoother. Plus, it means you can plan your stations to be exactly where you need them rather than having to route all resources from a single central station. If you really want to have just one station, you need to have some splitters with filters on to make sure the right resources are going to the right places, but again, I really cannot recommend this since it is just horribly inefficient. Whatever you plan, just ensure that every train that could possibly go through a route can go through that route all at once, and you should be just fine. Of course, placing all of these rails manually is going to be quite the task, so getting some autonomous friends to help you out is ideal, but we'll have to come to that next time. For now, that's all I've got on the trains in Factorio. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments below, like, subscribe, and if you want more Factorio content, then check out this video on Blue Signs.